In the Know.
Welcome. Good evening. I'm Miss Jill, and this is In the Know. So with the recent time change and the leaves falling and the darkness and the colder weather, I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to get in the mood for the holidays. Thanksgiving, first of all, and then Christmas. So we just happen to have with us tonight a guest who is a passionate agent for change, who is also here tonight to kind of tell us about something that aligns perfectly if you want to get into the holiday spirit. So I want to welcome Stephen Stiles, founder of Stiles Interrelational Solutions. Did I say that right?
Yes,
and also event producer. So welcome, Stephen.
Thank you. It's very, very great to be here.
Good. We're glad to have you. Clarence, good evening.
Good evening,
evening everyone.
I'm glad you mentioned Thanksgiving first because, everybody already putting out their Christmas
I
stuff.
know.
They dusting off Mariah Carey. So I'm glad you mentioned Thanksgiving first.
We can't skip Thanksgiving. We absolutely cannot, and we will not. So before we get into everything, again, we want to thank you for being here with us. Thank you for supporting us, our Neutral Voices and Neutral Voices as well. So, Stephen, tell us a little bit about Stephen, starting with, because I know that you are not a Fort Wayne native, as we spoke about. Tell us first, what brought you to Fort Wayne?
Well, thank you again for the invitation.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be here with you all.
Yes, thank you.
What brought me to Fort Wayne? So I am the founder of Stiles Interrelational Solutions, which is a consulting business that, from a faith-based perspective, provides training, workshops, community organizing resources, grassroots organizing. We've worked with folks that are C-suite leaders, civic leaders, you name it. And I'm also a musician. I play drums, and I'm from Chicago originally.
Okay.
And so I started that business formally in 2019 after about a little more than a decade, doing contract work with my church denomination that I was affiliated with.
Gotcha.
Doing racial justice, social justice, community organizing work with the church denomination. And when George Floyd was killed in the summer of 2020, a musician friend of mine reached out. I had a lot of friends that are very, very high profile, very successful Black musicians. And they were trying to use their voice in the wake of George Floyd's murder in the summer of 2020. And so I started working with this collective of musicians from all over the country. And I helped them organize a series of Zoom meetings with corporate leaders in the music instruments business.
Okay.
And we're talking about folks like Craigie Zildjian and Andy from Fender Guitars and Chuck Surak.
Yeah.
And so Chuck was invited to those Zooms. And at a certain point in those conversations, I shared a phrase that I learned from a mentor of mine. And Chuck sent me a note in the private chat and said, "Stephen, what do you mean by that?" And we ended up having a one-to-one over Zoom, and then about a week later we did another, myself, his chief people officer, a guy named Jeff, and they invited me to come and do some training work with their senior leadership group in September of 2020 during the annual management retreat. Those first couple days of training with the HR team and the management team led to a recruiting conversation. Mm-hmm. And they created a role in human resources, and I was Sweetwater's first manager of training and development in the HR team.
Okay.
So I moved here in January 21 with my wife and kids to go to work at Sweetwater. Worked there for just over a year. Was very, very thankful and proud to be a part of that team because they're some of the most brilliant, just good-hearted,
Absolutely.
do the right thing people.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing company, amazing folks, amazing culture. But after being a contract guy for more than a decade and having a lot more autonomy with your time, for me, 50 hours a week was expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so and so I had fallen in love with Fort Wayne, but needed my time in a way
Of course.
that a full-time 50-hour week job did not afford. So I gave 6 weeks notice. I tried not to burn any bridges, kept my good relationships, and I got up out of there. But continue to live in Fort Wayne and have continued to try to live into the values that my firm represent, which is bridge building, helping cultivate cultural competency, and from a faith-based perspective, because I will never apologize for my faith.
Amen.
I've learned that even in secular spaces, the principles that Jesus taught work if you work them.
Right.
And having been in the corporate environment, having been in political and nonprofit environments, I've kind of developed a system that I think is useful to leaders that really want to do that kind of thing.
I want to back up a little bit.
Yeah.
You had said something that kind of struck a chord. So the phrase that you speak of, that Chuck Sirac said, he messaged you later and asked you what you meant by that.
Yep.
Can you do you remember what that phrase? Can you share that phrase with
absolutely.
us?
So it's really central to the work that I do, and I'm gonna give a quick shout out. This mentor of mine, her name is Sunitha Mortha. And it's Reverend Sunitha Mortha. She led a unit with the Evangelical Church in America for I don't know how many years, called Glocal. And she would convene about 100 creatives on an annual basis for about 2.5 days of training. And then from April to about October, she would deploy us in small teams to do music and workshops all over the country within the denomination. And so Sunitha has a saying that she taught us. If you're going to have a conversation with a leader that says, I want to focus on justice or race or whatever the case is, you have to begin that conversation asking the question, do you want to create access or do you want to go to the belly of the beast?
Oh.
And then you have to explain for that leader what those different things represent so that they understand from the outset what kind of commitment they're prepared for. And you, as the practitioner, understand what your profile with that leader will be. And it can spare you a tremendous amount of frustration because people may say, I want to go to the belly of the beast because that's where the real work goes.
Right.
But once they recognize what that truly means and how disruptive to their norms that can be, because it's deep generations old stuff that many of us don't want to dredge up.
Sure.
And so most times we get so far and then we say, okay, that's enough. I don't want to go any further.
Yes.
And I'm not interested in spending my life with people that aren't committed to the true belly of the beast work. Because what it really requires is that you're going to swallow a pill and over time you're going to ingest it and it's going to poison the systems that you've used to operate and relate to the world through. So it's almost like chemo. We're going to kill a bunch of cancerous cells inside you and it's going to make you sick before it makes you better.
Yes.
And what I have found is that most folks don't want to go through that process. They say they do, until they recognize, oh, we're not a social justice organization, we're an education organization, or we're here to sell tires or whatever. And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll deal with the folks that want to do the thing that I'm here to do.
Right.
And then we'll provide those other services for those others that don't have the same capacity because we need access to.
Yeah, deep. That's deep. Thank you for sharing.
And with that, entering the belly of the beast or creating access, the world right now is in the United States is in
it's election night.
Stage of turmoil, questioning, things like that. But even before tonight, there has been, from George Floyd to different things, there's been things that's culturally have been damaging to not only our culture, but it affects the world, our nation as we see it. How do you feel teaching? How do you not feel, but how do you see teaching cultural competence in a world right now? In the state that we're in.
When you say, how do I see it? What do you mean?
Well, because you have this one saying, let's go with both political parties.
Okay.
You have one that is saying, especially how they bring God into, I just saw a sign, driving up the street that say God, guns, and Trump.
Yeah.
And, but then, some people tell me, that if I support this one, I'm supporting all this evil and different things like that. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, knowing that all these factions and all these thoughts are going, where do you see or how do you see approaching to dispel a lot of that to bring everybody together?
So here's what I've lived. What I've lived is a life that prepared me to have the capacity to hold all of that.
Okay. Yeah. You got broad shoulders then, bro.
Well, no, God has the gift.
All right, I got you.
But God prepares certain people for certain things.
That's true.
And so what I've learned as a person that really has done this is that I had to walk with folks that had enough grace for me to let me stumble forward for over 10 years in a safe environment where they were teaching me skills, they were teaching me language, I was going through trainings to do this. Then Sunitha facilitated what we call a community of praxis, where you iterate, you review, you reiterate, you review. Stephen, we were doing this workshop and that person said the wrong thing, and your response to them, you got triggered, didn't you? Yes, I did, Sunitha. Why? What was that about? And so I've been through a crucible of development that has made it feasible for me to sit with a guy that will call me a nigga to my face and mean it.
Right.
And I have to sit across from this guy and say, you know what, sir? As an American, I respect your right to say that to me. You did a good job to not put your hands on me.
Right.
Now, let's talk. And actually continue the conversation without being flapped by it.
Right, I got you.
And that is not a thing. There's a lot of people like me. I'm not that rare. I know dozens. I've traveled with them.
Right.
They are all over the country. I know these people. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that have access and a voice and they're saying a lot aren't the ones that have been through the kind of development that I've been through.
Right.
So what I will say is the first task is identifying people who are willing to commit to a process to being developed enough.
Right.
Because if to go biblical about it, the Bible says that the strong have to bear the infirmities of the weak.
Yes.
So if we know that there's a person that has a weakness and their weakness is the illness associated with white supremacy, which is a centuries-old illness that our country has, I like to say that everyone in America has been born with this illness. Our symptoms are different based on our social location.
Right.
So as a black guy raised by parents from Jim Crow, Mississippi, I'm sick one way.
Right.
You're a white woman from a small town in Indiana, right?
Yep.
Your symptoms are different,
Correct.
but we're all sick from it. So the question is, how do we get better? And who has all the medicine? Ain't but one.
Right.
And that's Jesus.
Yes.
So my focus is to bring it home. It's a faith-based perspective.
Gotcha.
And I integrate the scripture, I integrate prayer, and I do that if I'm in a boardroom with C-suite executives worth $1 billion, and I'll do it in a room like this. I'll do it in a church basement. I'll do it on a corner with some activists. For me, in my life, because of what Jesus has done for me personally. Because if we ain't got time for that testimony, but believe me when I tell you, I've lived loving Jesus. I've lived not loving Jesus and faking it. And I'm at a point now where I'm running for my life. Lord, you've given me one more chance and I'm never turning back.
Right.
So that's my deal.
I feel you.
Amen.
I got
Amen.
I got to moderate this thing. We ain't got but little time.
Yeah.
Stephen, thank you for sharing all that. And before we get, we are going to talk about the event. We have this beautiful photo here behind us. So before we get to talking about the event, I have one more thing that I noticed you speak a lot about. You've actually said it twice just sitting here. You talk about the bridge. It's even written somewhere that it's written, I believe, on your website or maybe within your mission. Your focus is on building bridges by laying the necessary foundation upon which stronger relationships can stand. So you talk a lot about being the bridge. Let's talk about what that means, what being the bridge means, and why that is necessary, not just in our community, but in all communities.
Well, I will go back to my beloved big sister, Sunitha. She has a saying that she taught us. And I'm just a dude, it ain't all about me. You know what I mean? There's people that made me.
Right.
And Sunitha's one of them people. And Sunitha has a saying, if you want to be a bridge, prepare to be walked on. So the first thing you have to do is strengthen your back enough.
Right.
Yes.
And most of us have this thing in America, man. You ain't going to treat me like a floor, man. You ain't going to walk
no,
all over me.
That's not gonna happen.
Well, no, hold on a second.
True.
If I want to be like Jesus, what did Jesus do?
Yes.
He had to suffer for us, for me. Am I better than him? No. He did it for me. I can do it for you. I can do it for whoever. And that don't mean I'm gonna get it right all the time.
Right.
Sometimes I do pop off. I got a temper. It used to be a very bad temper.
I feel you.
I thank God that he's healed me from it because it was very bad.
Okay.
But my point is that you have to have the capacity to let other people walk on you, and it does not feel good. That's part one. Part two, being a bridge is to be a connector. It's being able to say, I'm on this side, I see the side that you're on, and there's something in between us that keeps you from crossing. how do I stretch myself to the point that I can get over there? And by the time I'm done stretching, this is back to capacity. By the time I'm done stretching, I may not be able to do much else except create a path that you can come back over on.
Yes.
Oh,
So you're
man.
And I'm
becoming
gonna get you back.
the bridge.
I
You're
have
becoming-
to be the bridge. I
Yes.
have to become it.
Yes.
And so I think that ultimately, even from and I'm sorry to get so churchy on this, but I'm gonna say
No,
it.
You can be
And
churchy.
But at the end of the day, as a believer, that's ultimately what I think every believer is supposed to be.
Right.
Jesus said, "Go out and make more disciples." Well, what does that mean? You got to be a bridge
Right.
Yes.
between humans around you and our Heavenly Father. Be the one to represent me in such a way that people go, "What is it about this dude that he means this thing so
Right.
much?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
What's different about that?" I remember when Stephen would do some terrible stuff,
I feel you.
and Stephen isn't like that anymore. Stephen, what's that about? Hey man, Jesus gave me a chance, So
Yeah.
let's move on.
Absolutely.
Excuse me.
Amen.
So yes,
Amen.
thank
No.
you for sharing that.
Be you. Be you.
So December 7th, Saturday at 6:30 p.m. at Pilgrim Baptist Church, 1331 Gay Street in Fort Wayne. We have, well, not we, but Stephen has an event that he would like to talk to us about. And this event is called Worthy, a Christmas Cantata.
That's right.
Tell us about the event. What can we expect when we come to this event?
This is going to be an amazing night of music. So Worthy is composed by my friend, a Chicago-based recording artist and music educator. Her name's Lana Manson. And so Lana has done a phenomenal album for Christmas, and she also has another one that she's done for Good Friday season.
Okay.
I was actually in the room when she recorded that one about 12, 13 years ago.
Okay.
And so my wife and I invested to bring Lana to Fort Wayne in 2022, and then we partnered with Dr. Deborah Fay at Pilgrim Baptist, and she put out the call to some other churches, and we had Lana come to Fort Wayne. She ran several rehearsals. We put this concert on the first time. Last year, we did some additional recruiting, and my vision has been always all along the way to build an interracial, interdenominational chorus at Christmas time.
Okay.
Because no matter what your Christian beliefs are, we believe that Jesus was born and we celebrate. We believe that he died and rose again at Easter time and we celebrate. So let's get people together musically
Right.
and put aside whatever our differences are around some of these other things and just praise the Lord with some amazing world-class music.
Yeah.
Lana and her husband, I'll let you guys see these. They're pictured there. That on top is Lana. On the bottom is her husband, Mike. Mike is a world-renowned jazz bassist. He's produced and recorded with folks like George Duke and Shaka Khan and Patty Austin and Al Jarreau and the Soul Children of Chicago. And Lana has written songs for folks like, I mean, it would get stupid if I just started name dropping.
Yeah.
It's I'm from the real music scene in Chicago. Like it gets real. So it's an amazing night of music.
Okay.
And we've got, last year I think we had more than a dozen congregations represented. I think this year we're going to have probably at least 20.
Good.
Oh, wow.
That's
So
great.
growing.
It's growing.
Growing.
Last year we also had participation from a group called the Summit City Chorus, which was a non-religious community choir.
Okay.
We had people that sang with us that said they were Buddhist.
Oh, wow.
We had some folks that were agnostic. It's held in a church, but it's what we call a non-sectarian cultural experience.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yes, it's held in a church because the church has all the gear.
Sure.
They're
Right.
donating the space. And recently, my wife was offered the an opportunity with Habitat for Humanity locally, and as that happened, I started looking into the organization,
Okay.
and I learned that at its inception, Habitat was founded by a married couple called the Fullers. The Fullers got the concept, though, from a missionary in Americus, Georgia, in the 30s and 40s named Clarence Jordan. Reverend Jordan started what they called a Koinonia Farm, which is a Christian living community kind of based on the book of Acts, having all things in common. He had black folks and white folks in the Jim Crow South in backwoods Georgia in the 40s, living together, working together, eating together, being paid equal wages. They bombed this man's car. They shot up his barn. They threatened his life. His thing was like, listen, God created us equal, and we're going to do this equal thing.
Right.
So later, the Fullers moved to that farm, caught the vision, and started Habitat for Humanity.
Okay.
So my friends and I that helped me do this concert, we've been doing it for free the last couple of years. We're like, man, we got money walking out the door. You know, it's 300 folks about. 300 folks the first year, about 700 the second year. We're looking for about 1,000 people this year. We need to do something with this money that's just coming and going and with a free will offering. And so we said, let's raise some money. So I'm like, we're going to do a program book. I'm going to sell page space. So if you look at the back of this thing,
you brought that with
we're selling page space in the concert program book where you can buy, there's nonprofit pricing and corporate pricing. You can buy a full page or down as small as an eighth of a page. And the proceeds from that, my goal for Habitat is $60,000 because I learned in the conversation with them that it takes about $30,000 to do one Habitat new build. So my goal is to subsidize the cost of at least 2 Habitat homes. And then what we agreed to is anything over, like let's say I hit that goal, and it's a really ambitious goal. My goal is to split everything above 60%, 60,000 if we raise it, half to Habitat, half will sit in the fund that I can use for more programming, like the Racial Unity Concert, the one that we want to do in Good Friday, and there's a whole slate of other things that I'm trying to develop. But it's all based and aimed at convening our community. I think Fort Wayne is an exciting place to be. My wife and I are thrilled that we were blessed to move here and raise our children here. And I believe in what is happening here. Fort Wayne, the economy, the economic development, the cultural opportunities, the music scene that's being cultivated. These are all things that as an entrepreneur, not just as a consultant in the racial justice and conciliation space. But man, I want to be in commercial real estate development. I mean, you know, there's a lot that can be done to help grow the economic base for myself and other people of color in Fort Wayne. And I see opportunities that, in my opinion, from what I've been able to ascertain, I don't think there are enough of the right people in the conversations.
Oh, you preaching right now.
Amen. Yeah.
This is a perception. Now I'm from outside, but I'm a trained organizer, and I've been in a lot of rooms with a lot of people in the third largest city in the country. So I know the game. My daddy was a union guy during Harold Washington days in the '80s in Chicago. I know the game, and I'm not going to cast aspersions on anyone in Fort Wayne and suggest that they're playing games. What I will say is we know that power and money influence. Well, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say it influences just outcomes. And so
that's a good way to put it.
And so either the outcomes will be limited in how just they are, or they'll be broader in how just they are. And if we want righteousness and justice to flow like a stream in Fort Wayne, then we need the right kind of people helping participate in those conversations. And a lot of the future deals in Fort Wayne have probably been cut already. You know, because it happens 3 years before the shovel hits the ground. But what can be found, what can be participated in, we just know how to get busy. And we've been getting busy. You know, and we believe God. So we're gonna get busy. We're gonna put a little paint where it ain't.
Stephen, this is not the first. It's not the second. This is actually the third.
That's
correct?
Right.
So with that being said, I have a 2-part question. The first is just hearing you speak about the event. It obviously takes a lot of work, right?
It does.
So if somebody is watching, do you accept volunteers or do you accept help for the event itself? That's my first question. The second question is, if someone is watching and they want to help, but maybe they can't come to the event. Or maybe they're just interested in throwing some money. I mean, tell us how people can find you, how they can help, and how they can volunteer if you accept volunteers.
We absolutely welcome all people that come in peace and genuine goodwill. Because what we know is that some folks say they come in peace. But they don't truly come in genuine goodwill. I serve the true and living God that created the universe. I don't have to know what your intentions are because you cannot fool him. I am one of his chosen, and you would do well with your future and the future of your children to not play with me.
Touch not his anointed.
So I'm saying that because it needs to be said.
You're right.
Because I'm really one of them people, and I have seen it in ways that we don't got to talk about right now. But you mess with me, and you're truly messing with the God whose air you breathe. Don't play with me. Not because I'm Mr. Big and Bad. I'm just not the one. So I'm saying that from the outset so that as volunteers say, oh, I want to volunteer, just know that this may be, I may sound like a weirdo to some wealthy people. They go, man, this guy's intense. It just is what it is. And if I'm not your cup of tea, that's okay because God's got me. Now, for all people that genuinely come in peace and
after the disclaimer,
in peace and goodwill, all people that come in peace and goodwill, My email address is probably the best way to get a hold
Okay.
of me.
Okay.
So that is Stephen, which is spelled with a PH.
Gotcha.
So it's Stephen, Stephen, at, and it's first initial, my last name, and the word is.
Okay.
So it's sstylesis.com. So it's
Gotcha.
Stephen, Stephen, at SSTYLESIS.com.
Oh.
If people will email me, that's the S Styles Interrelational Solutions,
Okay.
or S Styles is.
Gotcha.
I will be responsive, and they are welcome to reach out however they can.
Okay.
If they'd like to make a donation, Habitat, they can go to the Habitat for Humanity of Greater Fort Wayne website. They've actually added an events page to the habitatgfw.com website. You can find the event. There's a special donation tab there, so that just for tracking purposes, so that we know they can actually donate straight through the Habitat website.
Perfect.
And if they're interested in the ad book, they can say that when they either send their email or send their donation.
That they want to.
But I'm kind of managing that to
Right.
try to keep the load off their development team, just like that's my side of it. So I would just need to know what they're looking to do. And we have someone, a graphic designer, that's assisting us with that.
Of course, absolutely. And also, I know we're running out of time. We could talk forever, but I also want to know what is next for you, because I know that there's something next. I know something is
There are a
coming
number
up.
of plates that are spinning. Yeah.
Is there anything that you can talk about or give us a hint as far as what's coming next?
Well, I will tell you that I believe I'll share. What can I say? All right, I'll tell you all about this.
Okay.
There is a program that I've been developing for the last 2 years called the Keys to the City Initiative. And it's kind of built to mirror a program called the International Sister Cities. So like Fort Wayne, Takaoka, Japan,
Takaoka,
Gera, Germany,
Yeah.
are international partners where commerce, education, arts. So I've been working to create the infrastructure to do a domestic version of that,
Okay.
starting with Chicago and Fort Wayne. So I'm in conversation I've met with Carl Bandemer, Deputy Mayor of Fort Wayne, and Karen Richards, Director of Special Initiatives. I've had 2 meetings with Dr. Christina Pasion-Zayas, who's the Chief of Staff for Mayor Brandon Johnson in Chicago. And so and then arts organizations, small business people. I've been sharing with John Urbans at Greater Fort Wayne that I need them to be ready in the spring, because I'm going to be bringing an impact investment group that's Black millionaires from Chicago that want to come and see what I've been telling them about the last 2 years, to look at investment opportunities as Black leaders. Nothing against white folks.
Right.
I love white folks and would love to do business with some.
Right.
Just haven't had that
We get it,
opportunity
though.
yet.
We
Just trying to
do.
empower
We do.
your own.
And I'm from a city where people know me and my name matters in certain rooms because of my dad and my grandfather.
Right.
And so I've had some favor directed my way. And so we'll be bringing some leaders here that have the resources for shovel-ready projects get busy.
Yes.
And so that's one of the things is this intercity arts business pipeline.
Okay.
And the goal is to demonstrate it between Chicago and Fort Wayne and then replicate it with the roughly 10 or 12 other cities that are within a 3-hour drive
Sure.
of my new hometown.
Gotcha.
Sure.
Gotcha.
So that's something that I'm excited
Love
about.
that.
And y'all keep me in prayer because
Yes. Yes.
it's my work. It is not my job.
Right.
But one day, it'll take care of itself.
Yeah. But I want to ask a quick question before we get out of here, because I'm a music person.
Yes, sir.
And this event is, first of all, free.
It
Correct?
is. It's going to be like donate what you can.
Donate
But
what you can. Okay.
Yeah, but absolutely free for
But-
anyone.
All right. For the lay person that doesn't understand the Christmas cantata, can you give me a synopsis of what kind of music or what kind
Thank
of feel
you.
we're going to have?
Great question. So, Lana is a classically trained musician with a master's from Northwestern University in Evanston. She wrote this cantata to be accessible for everyone. So it tells the story of the birth of Jesus across several pieces of music. There's a gospel rap. There are a couple traditional gospel pieces. There are 2 classical pieces. There's a smooth jazz
Saw that on the
piece.
thing, yeah.
There's a duet that's like a R&B ballad.
Okay.
Called Mary and Joseph, where a husband and wife as a man and a woman sing "We Hold a Miracle in Our Hands," but it almost sounds like if Donny Hathaway and what's my lady's name that did there's a ballad that we love, but it's a love ballad,
Okay.
and it's R&B,
Right.
so it's very accessible music. Anyone will enjoy it, and just come and check it out. 'Cause it's good.
Is it an age or is it a family? I mean,
It's a
what's the
completely family-friendly event. For the community chorus, which everyone's welcome to join. If they're 18 or over, they're welcome, regardless of your ethnicity, your gender identity, your racial, your faith background. If you want to sing and you're 18 and up, you can join the community chorus. Our next rehearsal is on Tuesday, November the 12th at Pilgrim Baptist at 6:30. And again, the music is very accessible, and we just want people to come together and have a good time and celebrate Jesus and raise some good money.
And that's what
The
it's
story of
about.
Jesus.
You
Yeah.
just said it. You just said it. You said a lot, but you just summed it up with that.
Thank you.
I love it. Thank you, Stephen, for being here with us. Thank you for all that you do for the community, for Fort Wayne, and just putting it out there and being transparent and being very real in what you're speaking on. Again, we want to remind you December 7th, and we'll help plug this event. This will be up on our Facebook page as well. Again, get into the holiday spirit, do something for the community and with the community. So we do want to thank our guest. It's been a joy having you, and we want to thank our audience.
Thank you.
And Clarence, what do we always say before we exit for the evening?
Always protect your mind.
A podcast by Neutral Voices Media Group. In the Know.